Hey, what's up, guys? Happy Monday. Hopefully your weekend was awesome and your Monday's off to a good start. Most of y'all probably at work right now, as you can tell, as we are now 4 videos in and it's only 10:24 Central Time here. It's definitely a busy workday to start over here as well. So we got Steelers Buccaneers tonight, and seems like a fun game. Probably not a game I was too excited for to watch, when schedules came out and things like that, but yeah, we got Fitzmagic. We got Steelers desperate for a win. This should be interesting. I'm excited for it. It should be a fun game from a fantasy perspective. We should see a lot of points right here. I like this game for a lot of offense. Doesn't make it so. I think NFL Week 3 reminded us that just because something makes sense on paper doesn't make it so. We'll harken back to the Minnesota Vikings. 17-point favorites losing by, 19? I don't know, 36 points. My God, that's just unbelievable. Alex Smith is not better than Aaron Rodgers, but the Washington Redskins massively outplayed Green Bay yesterday. You got the Jags beating the Patriots at home and then losing to the Titans, who Blaine Gabbert was the starter and then got knocked out, and Marcus Mariota with like half a hand comes in. Like, it's just a weird day of the NFL, and it reminds us all that it's still early in the season. We're still figuring things out. We haven't seen a bunch of these games. I feel like the only game that was super predictable was Saints at Falcons, which was even a little higher scoring than we expected, but at least it was close and entertaining like we thought it would be. So let's jump into tonight's game, which should be a fun game. Like, I'm excited to watch this one and see how it plays out. Can Fitzmagic keep the magic going? All right, we already covered this, guys. Draftkings captain mode, Steelers versus Bucs. We're the DFS 5-pack over here. If you happen to be new to the station, this is how Matt and I pay our bills. So for everybody willing to subscribe to the channel, give it the thumbs up. We appreciate it. This is what we do for a living. Matt got a couple of days off this weekend to head out to Atlantic City with a friend of his. Had to go get rid of some of that money he won in that big GPP the other week, and he's on the way back to town, so he'll be back around tomorrow. But in the meantime, you're stuck with just me. We do a lot of daily fantasy sports stuff over here. If you're interested in joining the team, just look down in the description section of below the video, guys. There's the website. We got all sorts of monthly, annual, lifetime, NFL-only packages, private podcasts that we do for just customers every week. This is how we pay the bills. So for all of you guys who support us in one way or the other, we tell you, we appreciate it a ton. Okay, for all of us, and we've covered this a couple times lately, but Captain Mode is new. We've all been only doing this for a couple of weeks. If you don't really feel comfortable with it yet, walk before you run. I got a really good handle on the MLB Showdown, but it did take a couple weeks if, kind of trying to figure out what your strategy was going to be. I specifically stick to cash games. We had a customer last night in the Sunday night game who crushed Daniel Allen. He was on here talking over his major NBA win a couple months back, if you guys remember. He had a really good night going hard on Detroit in that game in a GPP. But for me, still personally, I like the cash games in this one. Because even if you get to the top, you are going to be splitting it a bunch of ways. But to each your own. Everybody plays a little bit differently. No harm, no foul right there. And we know this. When we play games like this, a lot of times it is a little bit of a coin flip. And it comes down to who scores the touchdowns, right? Like, if you guys harken back to the Bears versus Seattle game not that long ago, if you played that showdown, Will Disley scores a touchdown in the last couple of seconds from Russell Wilson. That had major effects on everybody's game, good or bad. And I'm sure there's plenty of you guys who are on both sides of it. Like, it is going to be a little bit of a coin flip, but you want to know what? If you do it right, you can win that coin flip a little bit better than a 50-50 ratio. All right. First guy I'm locking in, Peyton Barber. What's the big thing here, guys? Cap space, cap space, cap space. Let's be real with it. We got a lot of studs on this slate going tonight. You got Mike Evans, Big Ben, Fitzmagic, Antonio Brown. There's a lot of guys that you're going to want to get on your roster. And to quote my partner, Matt Bellman, since he's not here, you can't play them all. And that's the unfortunate part of DFS. And not only do you not have enough spaces to play them all, you literally just don't have anywhere close to enough salary cap to do it. So I look at Peyton Barber as a good way to get some cap space. Now, I'm going to kind of peruse the old Twitter machine all day to make sure Ronald Jones isn't playing. They don't seem to have a lot of confidence in him. He hasn't been a factor so far this year. Hard to be a factor when you're not on the field. I don't have any reason to believe that he's going to start taking over the role tonight, but I do want to double check that stuff because Peyton Barber has been firmly supplanted into the role as the RB1 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, he hasn't had a very good start to this season, but I do think there's underlying factors to that. Number one, they've been so good through the air. They just really haven't had to give him the ball a ton. I mean, he's had a number of carries, but they just haven't needed that much production from him because they've been so thorough through the air. Number two, he had a bad week last week, really hurt his yards per carry and everything like that, but you just can't run on Philly. Their run defense is really good. So I wouldn't expect his statistic to look too good to start the year. A thing I want to talk about is Kareem Hunt. I wasn't as big on him, and we've had a couple conversations about that this week. But if you remember, something I said is one of these days, Mahomes is going to throw the ball. Travis Kelce or Watkins or Hill is going to get downed on the 1 yard line, and then they're just going to give the ball to Kareem Hunt, and he's going to score a touchdown. That happened to Kareem Hunt twice yesterday. That kind of thing could happen to Peyton Barber real easily again tonight. Do I think Peyton Barber is like this great player that you got to roster? I don't think he's a great player, but I think he's fine. I think he's playing for a good offense, at least an offense that's playing well to start the year. And I think the Pittsburgh D is, to be kind, less than stellar. You know, ever since Shazier got injured, they've had a lot of issues giving up big points, deep plays, letting running backs go off, wide receivers, tight ends, you name it. Everybody has been doing better against the Pittsburgh Steelers since then. I see Peyton Barber as a good value play on the slate simply because even though he hasn't been great, he has had 35 carries through 2 weeks. And eventually, when you start playing teams that aren't as stout versus the run like a Pittsburgh as opposed to a Philly, those should turn out to be better production per touch. So I would expect him to get better there. And eventually, one of these days, Fitz is going to throw the ball to Mike Evans, and he's going to get tackled on the 1 or 2, and they're going to run it in. So it's an easy way as the RB1 to get a couple goal line carries, and eventually that's going to happen. All right, next up, Chandler. I don't even know how to pronounce your last name, sir. We're looking for kickers right here. Again, cap space, cap space, cap space. Kickers tend to have a nice floor. Steven Gostowski did not give me a nice floor last night. I lost my big money fantasy football league by less than 1 point. And I had Gostowski going on Sunday night. So I'm a little salty right now. But that's neither here nor there. Ultimately, we need some cap space. Love Antonio Brown. Love Juju. Love Connor. Love Evans. You just can't play all these guys. So where are you going to go to spend now? This game, like many games, doesn't have a lot of good skill position players, you know, down in the really, really cheap mark. You know, a lot of these guys are talented and have put up big points this year, so their prices are way up there. You can't play all of them. It's a salary cap game. You guys all know this. I know it. We all know it. So where are you going to go to spend now? There are certain games where looking at the defenses is going to be a really good play. I don't think this is one of them. Again, crazier things have happened. I get that. Who knows? Maybe at the end of the night, this game is 13-10. I highly, highly doubt it. Vegas would agree with that, and I'm sure most of you guys would probably agree with that as well. That is not the likely scenario. So in this situation, I'll take kickers over the defenses in this one. You know, kick a field goal, kick a couple of extra points. I think 6 points is enough to likely outscore either the Tampa Bay or Pittsburgh defense tonight, which are just not teams that are great defensively in good spots against good offenses. So this is a guy you put in for cap space. It helps you afford the guys that you really want. That's about it. Next up, Antonio Brown. So as you can see by the first bullet point, really going out on a limb here, aren't I? I love AB tonight, and call it gut feeling. Call it the narrative that the Steelers haven't won yet, and he hasn't had a big day yet. Like, that's how great Antonio Brown is, though. He's got 18 catches through 2 games for 160 yards and a touchdown. So basically, he's averaging 20 not basically, it says it right there. He's averaging 20 DFS points per game, and he almost feels like it's been a bit of a letdown. I think he balls tonight. Again, a lot of this comes from gut feeling, but I don't mind having a gut feeling about the best wide receiver in football. You know, if you want to tell me Julio or Hopkins is better, fine, you're entitled to your opinion. But from a production standpoint, Antonio Brown's been the best wide receiver in football for a long time now. I want to find a way to get him in my lineup tonight. I think he's going off tonight. I wish I had better statistics to back it up, but ultimately I kind of feel like you don't need stats when you're talking about Antonio Brown, the most productive wide receiver in football over the last half decade. He is too expensive to put in the captain mode, though, and that's a little bit of where the struggle comes from for me. I would love to put him in the captain mode because I think he's going to have a game for a really, really good game tonight. But there's also so many other good, expensive pieces in this game that if you captain mode Antonio Brown, you are really, really limiting what you're going to do with your other picks. Now you're playing multiple kickers and Peyton Barber. That's my big issue with that one right there. I would love to put him there, but I'm really struggling to build a lineup with that I have anything that I like. So I just don't think I'm going to be able to pull it off because there are a ton of guys set to go off in this game. And for me, it's just really hard to see a game script where the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't throwing. Like, I know it's possible that if you went into the season, you would have thought Pittsburgh would be the better team. And through 2 weeks, they haven't been. But it's still only 2 weeks. And you think, oh, yeah, Pittsburgh should come in here. And if this game was in Pittsburgh, I might be buying it a little bit more that Pittsburgh could come up and get up a couple touchdowns. And, of course, it's possible. It's hard to believe Tampa Bay is this good, but through 2 weeks, they look this good. So I do struggle to envision a scenario where Antonio Brown, Big Ben and the crew isn't throwing the ball all around the stadium. You saw how quickly they abandoned the run last game, even after they caught up to Kansas City, because it was 21-0, but then it was 21-21. They still completely abandoned the run. So I think Antonio Brown's going to ball tonight. There's enough issues within the locker room. You know, he wasn't at practice. He said it was personal. Coach knew about it. Who I don't really know what's going on there. Obviously, I don't know these guys, but I just, like I say, I just got a feeling we see classic Antonio Brown tonight. 100+ yards, 8+ catches, and he's going to score. I just got a really good feeling he's going to give you at least one touchdown. All right, next up, Ryan Fitzmagic. What a year, what a year, what a year. I've never really met a Buccaneers fan. I don't live anywhere close to Tampa Bay, so it's not exactly a team that gets a lot of love nationwide. But if you are a Buccaneers fan, this has got to have been a really fun 2 games because your team wasn't expected to do much of anything this year. You beat the Saints and you beat the Eagles. That is a hell of a resume to start the season. And Fitzpatrick has been nothing short of the nickname that he's earned, which is Ryan Fitzmagic. He's a guy that you want in your cash games tonight. Got to have a pretty good feeling he's going to be real highly owned. Quarterbacks tend to get a really solid ownership because they're high floor and high ceiling. He's a guy I would want in my cash lineup tonight. Quite frankly, the Pittsburgh defense just isn't very good. They've been missing a few guys. They've been giving up a lot of deep plays. He's got really good weapons around him in O.J. Howard, Mike Evans, Godwin, and Deshaun Jackson. That's another one of those teams loaded in weapons with everybody healthy. You take a look at the Rams and you take a look at the Chiefs, and they're loaded with weapons. With the Buccaneers, it's been a steady reminder this year. Mike Evans is pretty good. And if you can get the ball to Deshaun Jackson, he's quite the deep threat. O.J. Howard looks like he could be maybe Starr's a bit aggressive, but an emerging solid player at the tight end position. And Godwin is no slouch at the number 3 for a wide receiver. So Fitzpatrick is a guy you're going to want in your cash lineups. I usually stick to cash lineups in this, so he's a guy that I would play. However, for those of you who like to get a little bit different, and I told you about one of our customers, Daniel Allen, crushed it last night by going a little bit different in that GPP, made himself some nice money. It is an interesting fade. He is going to be highly owned, but let's remember, as great as he has been through the first 2 weeks, it's not impossible to think that, he turns back into a pumpkin, right? I mean, there's a reason Ryan Fitzpatrick hasn't inked like this major deal and stuck with the same team for 8 years. I know Buffalo gave him some money back in the day, but he's moved around a little bit. He's a starter, he's a backup as a starter. He's been really inconsistent throughout his career. And even though I don't think smart money that this happens this week, we've talked about this, especially with baseball season having been in full swing. Oftentimes when you win GPPs, you're not playing the smart plays. The smart plays are the guys that become chalk. And he's going to be chalk. He's probably going to succeed tonight, but there are no guarantees. And let's just assume that he's 80% owned. It might be higher than that in cash games. It's hard to say. We're all still a little new to the showdown captain mode within the NFL realm. So predicting ownership is still a little bit up in the air, but I'm assuming he's going to be really highly owned. What if he's just not that good? We've seen Ryan Fitzpatrick not be very good, make make mistakes. Sorry, my English isn't so great today. There's scenarios where maybe they move down the field, but it's a couple of pass interference calls. That happened in the Packer game yesterday. Washington moved up and down the field because of some pass interference call. I mean, they were pass interferences. I'm not complaining. I'm just calling it like it is. Same thing could happen here. Or they could just not be very good. Or Peyton Barber could have a really big day. Maybe the run game turns out. Maybe Big Ben fumbles and they pick it up and run it in for a touchdown. There are scenarios where Fitzpatrick's just not very good. And it's not like there aren't other high money options on this slate. And this is where these showdown modes can be really, really slate dependent. And sometimes, like you look at the Jets Cleveland last week, that was a game where you didn't expect a lot of offense. There wasn't a lot of high price studs. This game is totally different. And while I think Fitzpatrick is a good play, it is not at all crazy to think that Antonio Brown, Juju, Connor, Mike Evans, Big Ben, you name it, these guys outscore him. What if he throws 2 touchdown passes, Mike Evans catches both of them, Peyton Barber runs in 2 touchdowns, and then the Steelers come back like last week and just get into frantic mode, and Big Ben, AB, and Juju all go off, and they all outscore Ryan Fitzpatrick, and fading him becomes a great play. It's possible. I think he's the cash game guy that you want, or at least one of the cash game guys you want, but I don't think you're insane at all for trying to do the GPP fade again. Like, we know who Ryan Fitzpatrick is. He's been great this year, but there's a reason that he has not been locked into a starter role for, half a decade or, somewhere, because he's just not necessarily ever been like this before. So that's my 2 cents on him, guys. Just to reiterate, if you are new to the station or if you are somebody who watches frequently, we'd love to have you come join the DFS 5-pack team. Sign up through the website. We offer baseball, basketball, football. We do private podcasts, basically every day for, football, baseball, and basketball. Will be starting here soon. Anybody who's willing to give the thumbs up, we appreciate the positive comments. There's also a way, like, if you don't really want to sign up, but you just feel like you appreciate the free videos, we have a link down there for patreon.com. People who sign up and just donate $2 a month is just kind of a thank you. We'll enter you into a free contest for, winning a free membership and things like that. So that's what I got today, guys. Best of luck tonight. That should do it for videos for a few minutes. Thanks a lot for watching. Again, I can't say it enough. You guys keep us going. And so from us to you, thank you very much.